Right now, you are wearing something. A shirt, shoes, maybe a jacket. You put it on without thinking. It is just what you do. But here is the thing. No other animal on this planet does that. And the real reason your ancestors started covering their bodies is far stranger than fashion, modesty, or cold weather. It does not start where you think it does. For most of human history, your ancestors walked this earth completely bare. 2 million years of bare skin under open sky. And then, somewhere between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago, something changed. Not a sudden invention, not a brilliant idea, something much more desperate, something crawling. The first clue did not come from bones or cave paintings. It came from lice. In 2003, a researcher named Mark Stoneking at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology published a study that quietly rewrote the history of clothing. His team was not studying fabric. They were studying parasites. Specifically, they were tracking the genetic split between head lice and body lice. These are two different creatures now, but they share a common ancestor. Head lice live in hair, body lice live in clothing. The moment your ancestors started wearing clothes regularly enough to create a warm, stable fabric environment, body lice evolved as a separate species to exploit it. By tracing the genetic mutation rate between the two, Stoneking's team calculated exactly when that split happened. It was approximately 107,000 years ago. That is your best archaeological timestamp for when clothing became a regular habit. Not thread, not needles, lice. But why then? Why did your ancestors, who had survived naked for over 1 million years, suddenly need to cover up? The answer is not warmth. Not exactly. At least not in the way you are picturing it. Around 120,000 years ago, the climate shifted, dramatically. A cooling period swept across Africa and began pushing your ancestors into new territory. Territory that required surviving temperature swings they had never faced before. Not the brutal cold of an ice age, but something more destabilizing. Unpredictability. Hot days, cold nights, wind, open grasslands with no canopy. Your ancestors needed a tool, not a weapon, not fire. A portable microclimate they could carry on their own skin. This is where the story gets strange, because the first clothing was not sewn. It was not even cut. It was draped. Animal hides, scraped clean, thrown across a shoulder or wrapped around a body. Simple, crude, but biologically transformative. In 2020, a team of archaeologists led by Francesco Derrico at the University of Bordeaux reanalyzed a set of bones found in Morocco at a site called Contrabandier's Cave. The bones were from large predators, bears, foxes, wildcats, but the cut marks on them were in exactly the wrong places for meat extraction. They were along the paws, the edges, the areas you would scrape if you were removing a pelt to keep it intact. The bones date to approximately 120,000 years ago. Your ancestors were skinning animals for their fur before they had language sophisticated enough to name what they were doing. Think about what that means. Your ancestors looked at a dead animal and understood abstractly that the outer layer of that creature could become part of their own outer layer. That is not a survival instinct. That is imagination, projection, a cognitive leap that most animals are incapable of making. Clothing was not just a material invention. It was a sign that something had changed inside the human mind. But here is the twist you were not expecting. Warmth was the immediate trigger. But warmth was not what made clothing permanent. What made clothing permanent was something your body did in response to wearing it. When your ancestors first started covering their skin consistently, your body began to change, slowly, over thousands of generations. Human skin, exposed to open air, had always been a dynamic organ, producing oils, hosting bacteria, regulating temperature through sweating and evaporation. Covered skin behaves differently. It stays warmer, stays moister, loses some of its direct environmental calibration. And as clothing became more reliable, your body stopped investing as heavily in certain biological defenses. Anthropologist Nina Jablonski at Penn State University has spent decades studying human skin and its relationship to environment. Her research shows that as early humans migrated into less sun-intense regions and began covering more of their bodies, skin pigmentation began to shift, because UV protection, once managed entirely by melanin, was now being partially outsourced to fabric. Your skin color, at least in part, is a record of what your ancestors wore and where they lived. The clothes changed the biology. The biology changed the skin. The skin tells the story. You are wearing the history of your species right now, literally, in your complexion. And then came the needles.